Forsooth, what light through yonder window breaks? I don't know, but it's something about the Middle Ages. Hello, guys. Welcome to Amusing Minds. Today, we're going to be interviewing a previous guest, Mr. Travis Buck, again. He's going to be telling us some fun facts, fun secrets of the trade of the medieval ages to keep you alive. I mean, you know, it's luck of the draw here. You're in the medieval ages. You know, dirt could try to kill you, but I mean, you're living there, you eat dirt. I don't know. Anyway, moving on. So every time I think of that topic of surviving in the Middle Ages, I keep thinking of a kid in King Arthur's court. That was with the kid who was in the baseball movie where he broke his arm and he could throw pitches.
Angels in the Outfield.
No, that wasn't Angels in the Outfield. That was a different one.
Oh, wait.
That was a different one.
You're right.
Rookie of the Year, was it?
Yeah, Rookie of the Year.
Rookie of the Year or something like that. Yeah, so like that kid was in the Kid in King Arthur's Camelot or something like that, and I was like, well, I kind of feel like the kid who, he's grown up enough, he would know absolutely how to survive. It would be more common sense, like, hey, don't step in that big pile of crap right there and then dance around. It's I don't know. I feel personally like it would be pretty easy to survive the medieval ages, but maybe they have weird stuff that we didn't even know about, like, oh yeah, those flowers over there, they will take you to places, but if you eat them under the pale moon that is slightly red, you will become the devil.
I feel like medieval times are, or the Middle Ages is like the Australia of the timeline. Everything is out to kill you, and your life expectancy is pretty much nothing. There's
goose egg.
Huh?
Goose egg. It would be goose egg.
What is goose egg?
Sarah. No, anyway,
goose
sorry.
Egg? I don't get it.
Just go, Ben. Just go. I tried to make a joke. It didn't work. I threw it at a wall and it hit like shit. It just stuck there and dropped.
I mean, I'll admit most of my medieval knowledge didn't come from school because we just kind of glossed over that. No, most of it comes from Monty Python. So I'm pretty sure that most of the Middle Ages was just like, digging around in muck. And trotting along with somebody clacking coconuts behind you, and then shit, I lost it. I almost had it. And then an incredible focus on landscaping.
Shrubbery, I'll take another shrubbery. No.
So I'm pretty sure the only thing you need to survive in the Middle Ages is a giant wooden rabbit. That's my take.
Rodney.
Man, you guys. Yeah. See, a lot of my middle age stuff that I like comes from fantasy or stories. Like I can't say I have a good historical real knowledge on it, like sporadic stuff. But I like the stories and the tales and lore from it, and it's interesting. I think something we're supposed to talk to him about is his take on things is not necessarily always going to be factual. And I think that's the funnest part of those things. So, I mean, that's really, like, I'm interested to see where this conversation goes.
D&D.
Yeah. D&D. It's fantasy. Like, to me, it's fantasy because the reality of it doesn't quite work for me. Like
your brain can't kind of switch into that mode where you're like, you seriously don't have electricity or, like, running water?
Oh, no.
Drink that pee over there?
That I totally can, like, rationalize. I love those aspects. I like the LARP. I like to go to like Renaissance festivals, but I like the fantasy of it. I like the story and the myth that we've been told, and like this, King Arthur type stories and things like that. I like the good and the positive and the happy parts of it. But during that time, it was really dark and horrible and cruel in a nasty, violent world. But there was a lot of myth that came from it that I think is really interesting. So
lore,
dark for sure.
Lore. Because I mean, it was lore. It was folklore, is what they called it. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, honestly, it's exactly like that. You're like, hey, this beautiful place that could have been something really cool. At least the way the guy told the story, it was like the guy told us the story, and it was just like I was blown away. I couldn't believe an ounce of it. Dragons. There were dragons and. Oh, I wish dragons were real. Anywho, I'm sorry.
So even minus the dragons, I actually just thought about it. Like, my ideal, like, that time frame is the movie Knight's Tale. Like, it to me encompasses all of the aspects of it I like. You have the story of a kid who was poor and just decided like I'm gonna take a chance and become a knight, and then there's all this little fun stuff in it, and there's funny characters, but it's a deep story, and in the end the hero wins. Like that, I love that, but that in itself I know is very unrealistic.
Well, I mean, they implied that a Queen song was invented in Middle Ages.
I mean, but it kind of worked though. Like, or it did work.
But that dance.
Oh no, it totally worked.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like the it's a David Bowie song, isn't it? Like, or something like the dance. There's who's that? Is it Bowie? Is that
No,
Bowie?
it's We Will
I feel
Rock
like it
You.
was a Bowie.
We Will Rock You was in the movie.
That is in the movie as well.
Yeah,
but
that's in the intro. That's early.
I know what you're thinking.
But Golden Years is a that song plays when they're doing the dance, and he has to he's trying to impress her, and he's trying to do the dance, and he's just making stuff up. Like that. Like it. But I think that's a Bowie song. I don't know. I had to look it up now. But yeah, like that. It's even though they tried to go the realist aspect, there wasn't any dragons or magic. It was still very fantastical, and there was things in there that I really loved about it. But yeah,
I think that is a great example of good Middle Ages fiction. My perspective, the Monty Python thing obviously was a joke, but the one thing I remember about learning about the Middle Ages wasn't in school, but was a museum that my parents took us to. Back in the 90s, we would go on family road trips. My parents would take us on family road trips, and we would go to museums, like everywhere. And the more I think about the museums that we went to, they were pretty horrible, like for children.
Yeah, because they were very real, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. So you guys might know where I'm going with this, but the museum that my parents took us to learn about the Middle Ages was a medieval torture museum.
Nice.
And it had replicas of medieval torture devices, and you would read the little placard, and it would talk about how it would kill someone or torture them until they die. And there would be little videos and stuff where it's like, oh yeah, and this one like pulls your entrails out a little bit at a time, and this was appropriate for a 10-year-old apparently. But
so that reminds me of something as well, Ben, that Ripley, believe it or not, actually had a little museum once, and they had a lot of medieval torture up in there in the most weirdest way possible. So you're like, is that man hanging from his nipples? No, honey, he's finding nirvana. It's like, what? What?
This museum had an Iron Maiden that you could get inside and close the door.
Oh, Jesus.
Obviously, they shortened and dulled off the spikes and stuff, but you could close yourself inside an Iron Maiden as part of the museum experience.
Hey, Ben, for our listeners that don't know what an Iron Maiden is, please explain what that is.
An Iron Maiden was basically a giant metal, basically a coffin that had a whole bunch of spikes in it. And when you close the door, the spikes would poke you, and you would slowly bleed out. Or at least I think that's what it was. I might be incorrect, because this is just like me going off of my memory from that museum.
Sorry if you're listening. This could be real. This could not be real. Who knows? You'll know quite soon. Coming back to you with Ben Watkins.
Hang on. I'm going to look it up because I want to make sure that we're not... let's see.
I believe you're right.
Okay, so my description was apt. And it says it is a torture device.
I would assume so. Don't worry, we'll cut this part out.
Oh, okay. So it wasn't that they closed the door and then it automatically stabs you. It's that the spikes were really, really close to you. And so if you didn't stand perfectly still, you'd lean into them and they would pierce you. So the torture was, I have to try and stand here absolutely still, or if I lean to one side, it's gonna stab me. Or at least this is one that
oh, fuck. Just imagine leaning into that. You're like so tired and you eventually just...
Yeah, it was the execution of Marcus Attilus Regulus, in which the Carthaginians packed him in a tight wooden box spiked with sharp nails on all sides so he could not lean in any direction without being pierced.
Romans, man. I'm telling you.
The modern device looked like a mummy sarcophagus. It doesn't really say like how it kills you. It's being pretty vague on that. It just says it's a torture device and it has a bunch of spikes. Maybe some of them are designed to like stab you as soon as they close the door, or maybe it was like you stand there until your legs tire out and then you fall to one side and then it stabs you to death.
Makes sense. It definitely makes sense, you know. They were all about your own personal strength. What could you hold up to? I think we're thinking of like Spanish Inquisition when we think of like the torture rack and stuff.
That's a whole nother Mind Bite episode. We could talk about what torture device would we make. That'd be fun.
Oh God.
Like yeah, it'd be so great.
You know what? Let's just move on. Let's go. We're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna go talk to Travis, and we'll move away from the torture device. We're sorry.
We'll get some tips for survival instead of death.
Exactly. So please stay with us, and we'll catch you after this break. Well, welcome back to Amusing Minds. We are here with Travis. Travis, we've all seen a kid in King Arthur's Court, that movie from 1990-something. How would any of us survive with our dependency on technology, processed foods? How in the hell would we survive? Please, give us your wisdom.
I don't know how we would survive.
Oh gosh, dang it! Thank you for thanks for being on the show,
tips.
Travis. We appreciate
That's
the
been a
effort.
good show, guys. Good show.
Welcome to Amusing Minds. Goodbye. Anyway, Travis, back to you.
Well, no, I'm just, I'm saying, you know, I didn't take into account trying to think of like the average person staring at their iPhone, whether they'd even have the constitution to survive it, you know.
Ooh.
But I do have some tips from that era.
Please.
That are kind of
impart
hilarious.
your hilarity.
Well, let's see.
Give us tip number
Sir
one.
Buck, please lead us.
All right, this is one of my favorites. So this one applies to this very day. Of course, don't go boating drunk.
Wait, what?
That's sad because that's very true.
Whoa, hold
Especially in
on.
Missouri.
Why would I not drink while I'm on a boat?
Well, I mean, if you're on a lake, that might be okay. But if you're in the English Channel and you're the son of the current king, it might not be a good idea to try to get as drunk as you can, sail as fast as you can, and try to cross the channel before him
Jesus Christ.
and destroy his entire dynasty. That
I
would
know
suck.
this story.
Now-
Please tell this
Now, are
story.
you talking about?
This is an amazing
Are you
story.
talking about
Please tell
boating
it.
as in you are the one that is like in control of the boat, like he was in control, or like he had a bunch of men that were with him in the boat?
Kind of both.
okay.
I mean, when you're the king's son, you can kind of tell them
Yeah.
what to do. So even if they're like, yeah, this isn't a good idea, you know, the English Channel's not the safest
So
body
nothing
of water
has
in the
changed
world,
in these past
and we've
1,000
all been
years?
drinking for like 3
What?
days. Pretty much. But yeah, what Ben obviously saw it coming. It's the white ship disaster from I can't remember the exact date, but it was King Henry I, his son. They, you know, at the time you had England and northern France was all part of one kingdom, so they would boat back and forth a lot. And yeah, it was like one night they were just really drunk and they were gonna go across. Dad in one ship and the kid in the other, and they're like, "Let's see if we can beat Dad." And they crashed into some rocks and died. Yeah. And then, you know, so then the kingdom was supposed to pass to the daughter, and, you know, but the cousin was like, "No, I want it," you know, Stephen, and yeah, everything kind of went into chaos for a while. Yeah. So, if they had you can boat drunk, but just make sure that the guy running the ship is not drunk, and you listen to his
guidance.
or if he's drunk, he at least knows the body of water he's going to be going through, I guess. Because, I mean, plenty of people are drunk on the Lake of the Ozarks and don't destroy their entire family.
And then we get a little special report on the news about somebody who was drinking.
Oh, okay. So should I go on to the next one?
Yeah.
Hold on a sec.
I just feel like that kind of ended somber there.
No. Okay, so
People died, Travis. People died.
so Travis,
Of course, it's somber.
just give us a little bit more information about the white ship.
The white ship disaster.
Yeah, like tell us what actually happened. So he was going back and forth between there, but like, was there any particular
that was
reason
about
he
it.
just felt like drinking, or he's just like, hey, I'm the king's kid, I can do what I want?
They were all getting drunk. I mean, I think the king was drunk too, but they were at least like, hey, we're drunk. We should sail slow and take this easy.
Oh, Jesus.
And like,
So what you're saying is they had
there's not a lot of
a
information.
drunk boat race is what it was. They got drunk and decided to race the strip as it is known.
It was kind of a one-sided race. I don't think the king had any idea that they were trying to race him. It was not
He was trying to secede the throne is what it was, and he apparently just sank the throne. So give us another tip, Travis. Another tip on how to survive.
Well, so while we're on the subject of let's see. While we're on the subject of water or getting across water, I've got two more. So you can also this might not be a survival tip, but it's like a life hack, a medieval life hack. You can trick the devil into improving your town infrastructure. So
Huh?
there's a story from
Come again.
No, hey, but before we jump into that, I was just skimming the white ship disaster. There's more layers to this.
Oh,
There's like a crazy number of layers to this. So, let's see. So William Adelin, the illegitimate son of Richard of Lincoln. Basically, so let's see. So the ship went out at night. It hit this giant rock, quickly capsized, and then William Adelin got into a small boat and could have escaped, but he turned back to try and rescue his half-sister Matilda when he heard her cries for help. His boat was swamped by others trying to save themselves, and he drowned with them.
So it was like a sad reverse Titanic.
And
Matilda survived though.
Did she?
Right?
it says... Berold, a butcher from Rouen, was the sole survivor of the shipwreck by clinging to the rock. The chronicler further wrote that when Thomas Fitzstephen, the captain, came to the surface after the sinking and learned that William Adelin had not survived, he'd let himself drown rather than face the king. So the captain also nearly survived, but when he learned that the illegitimate son drowned, he was like, well, I don't want to go before the king, so I'm just going to drown myself.
Or did he? Doo-doo-doo.
So yeah, this is wow, this is crazy. There's quite a bit to it, and the date you were looking for, Travis, was 1120.
And then if I'm not sure if I'm right or wrong, but I think 1147 then is when my favorite king Henry II took over, and he was the one who he led a war against Stephen, and the war didn't end his reign, but it kind of basically said, okay, I've won. When you die, I take over after you. Was kind of the negotiation. And Henry II went on to, have a very large empire. They called it the Angevin Empire, like all of Western France, Northern France, all of England. And yeah, he was one of my favorite kings. He was an interesting guy.
The only amount of medieval time I had real hands-on with is when I went to Excalibur in Las Vegas and got to see their jousting tournament. And they were like, guess what? You can't have any utensils. You just eat with your hands. And I was like, okay. And they're like, what do you want to drink? We've got Pepsi, Coke. And I'm like, Jesus! Should have been like, here's water. It's not brown. Be happy. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. That's it.
There's a balance in that.
Yeah. And you always knew, you're like, man, I hope my team wins. And you're like, I don't think they're going to win. Those guys over there, they look a little bit more excited about this. So I think they're going to win. Jousting, What can you do?
Yeah, sorry, I kind of jumped in and threw in some more information from that first survival tip. We can go back to that other thing that was being talked about now.
Did you want to know about how you can trick
Yes.
the devil into improving your town's
Yes.
infrastructure? So I can't remember the town exactly, but I remember what got us on this the last time we were talking. You guys, I mentioned that I was writing a book that took place in medieval times, and so through my research into that and the towns that I wanted the story to take place and my characters to move through, I came across this town, and it's either in northern Italy or on the border with northern Italy, somewhere up there. And there's a bridge that goes across. It kind of, I don't, yeah, you can see my hands there. Kind of goes like this, reaches over a creek or a river, and the story, the Romans built it, but the story in the town, because they didn't remember that the Romans built it. They had a story that the townspeople wanted this bridge built to get across, and so they asked the devil to help them build it. And the devil said, "Okay, I'll build this bridge for you, but the first soul to cross this bridge, I get to keep and take with me to hell." Well, when it's all finished, the guy who the town leader, I don't know if he's a mayor at the time, what they call him, but he goes to the front with like a little like animal bone or something like that, tosses it across, and a dog runs over the bridge. So the devil's like, screw you guys. So I get a dog soul. That means nothing. So then the devil goes away, and the townspeople are like, yay, we tricked the devil, yay. And it's kind of, it's not a great story, but I mean, at the same time, I thought it was.
And that's how Hades got Spot. You know, that's the Cerebus was headed to hell. You know? He was the happiest the devil ever felt.
I know that's a side note thing, but that's a little bit side note. Larry, you said the Spot thing. I actually learned that recently, that his name was essentially Spot.
Yep.
And it blew my mind. Like, I was like, what? He named his dog Spot? That's so cool. Yeah. Sorry.
I learned that from a sci-fi book, which was absolute. I was like, no, it's not. Looked on Google. I'm like, holy shit, it is. Cerebus's name was actually Spot, more or less. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, here, Spot. No, put that soul out of your mouth. Get it out of there. Bad dog. I think
I was gonna say something along the lines of, today I learned that in medieval times, towns believed that dogs have souls.
Ah.
Now that's an interesting one. Catholics probably, Catholicism probably did not believe that animals had souls, but yet these people believed that the soul. There's a lot of contradiction in religion back then. I love looking at that kind of stuff.
There still is, Travis.
I don't know if you know this, but yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I always found, I don't know, I guess the what I look at is like people look and they think that, the Middle Ages were like, this is what you think, you have to do what the church says and blah, blah, blah. But especially the early Middle Ages, it was kind of a free-for-all, You had the Catholic Church, but then everybody else was just kind of like, yeah, screw that, we kind of do our own thing. Send your army after us. And then in a few hundred years, they did send the armies after them. And that was unfortunate.
So
that's called the Renaissance.
Catholicism was like the dominant religion of 1000 AD and around that time, right?
Well, major one, but I mean, you had in southern France, you had the Catalans. Right? Yeah, Catholics, but you also had in southern France. I mean, you had like the Catalans. You had a lot of different religions that were then crushed. In like the 1200s and stuff like that. And then Spain had their Reconquista and all that. All the countries had their own little like, let's crush the people that aren't Christian. And but my book actually kind of focuses a lot on the Catalans. They're the southern France. They share a lot in common with Eastern Orthodox religion, and it was interesting. And yeah, obviously the French Catholics killed them all in the 1200s, so that's unfortunate.
And then they all died. That's kind of the ending to every medieval story, isn't it? And then they all died.
Yeah,
or they
didn't
were all
have
murdered.
wasn't a very
just
high
love the-
regard for life back then.
It's very true.
Well,
I just love the
and
simple
today.
fact that the Romans were in the British, in the British Kingdom before it was, Britannia. It's like,
Oh, yeah.
what? It's like, what the hell, guys? You're all the way down there in Europe, and you want to go up there? What? And still, some of their great structures had survived for such a long time.
Mm-hmm.
It was almost like a God, what is it? Not I Spy to find something that was Roman inspired. There, you're like, ooh, 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 look. Because I remember I did a DNA test, and they said one of the things that your DNA had so many blah blah blahs with a Roman gladiator from Britain, and I was like, what? Roman gladiators? Just when I vacation, I go to Britannia. It's like, tell us more, Travis. Inform
right,
us. Save us from ourselves.
well, all right. Well, during the sorry,
In
gonna be
cough
all right
cough.
there?
In cough cough.
allergies and crap.
Water.
Allergies.
Can we get
Right.
some water?
All right,
get some
all
fun-
right. If we're gonna
He's
talk
got
about
the
water, we can talk about
Yeah,
water. All right. Here's the main. This should be a no-brainer for anybody, even the Middle Ages. Bring water on a crusade.
Jesus.
So in if I might be pulling dates out of my butt here because they kind of are up here, but I don't know if I always had them right. I think it was 1187, 1189, somewhere in there. I was just before. There's so many damn crusades. I can't remember which one it was, but it was the one that Richard I went on. It was just before that one started. Saladin had been going around kicking the crap out of people, and was in the town, or was in the city. Can't remember the name of the city, but anyways, the fortress of Acre, which was where a large amount of the Christian armies were. They heard that he was, off in this city, and they thought, all right, we're going to send our army out to go kick his ass. And but they were like, we got to do this fast. Get your armor on. Let's go. No. Leave the water sacks at home. We got it. Now we're going out into the desert with no water. Screw that. We're just going to do it. And so at the Battle of the Hordens of the Hatton, it was kind of a slaughter because they were just marching like, oh my God, it's so thirsty. Hopefully there's water up ahead. Hey, what are those horsemen on the hills about? And then, woo, crunch. So bring
But
some
was
water
that
if you're
because
going
it
to go
didn't
on
have the
crusade.
water? But was it because the water, Travis? Was it? Or was it medieval tactics?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, if
Yeah.
your tactics were better, you'd bring your water with you, right?
Touche, Travis.
part of a tactic.
Touche. Make sure you're not
mean-
going to die out in the desert. Feel free.
So
mean,
these really are survival tips, because so far of the 3 survival tips we've received, it's do this or you're gonna die,
Yep.
basically.
Most
Well, I
of
mean-
these are based on other people's mistakes during the Middle Ages and how to not follow their mistakes.
Fair enough.
1,000 Ways to Die.
So-
Medieval edition.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a fun one. I almost skipped over this one. So, this one, you can kind of again apply this to today. So this kind of works for when Larry was asking, how can somebody today survive in the Middle Ages? Well, just as today people will cheat at sports and things like that to get ahead or whatever, you can cheat at tournaments. Back in the day, everybody knows about jousting, but what a lot of people don't realize, and I'm sure you guys do, knowing your being into medieval stuff, is that was like showing up to a baseball game and watching pitching practice. The jousting, the real thing was in the tournament where an entire army would face an entire army, and people would sit on like rooftops and watch armies go at each other with wooden, blunted, or sometimes not even blunted weapons, and bashing the shit out of each other. And then you'd stop just before you'd stab them to death and be like, okay, now you're my hostage, And then you'd put them on the back of your horse, you take them to your side. It's like like a big game of prison dodgeball. You take them back to your side. You say, okay, you're on this side of the fence. You're my prisoner. And at the end of the game, they have to pay you in order to leave. And that's how you made your money back then. If you weren't a knight in somebody's service, you could do these tournaments
people.
or money.
Kidnap people.
And so, right.
The good old days.
Here's the fun part. There's really no rules as to how to play this game. So this is an actual story I came across and I loved it. So there was a very famous knight. English people know him. He was William Marshall. He was like the military advisor for 3 or 4 kings. I can't remember. So Henry II, then Richard I, John, and I think Richard III. Richard II? Sorry, you don't skip over
Richard
to...
II, yeah. I was going to say, you
I
can't just go
think
straight to third.
Right. So I think there were 4 kings that he... I sometimes get my kings out of order. So anyways, but so William Marshall at one point fell out of favor with Henry II's son, who was supposed to become king but died before he ever became king. That's another story.
A lot of that happened back then.
Yeah. And so he fell out of favor with him and ended up becoming a knight errant, which is like a Ronin samurai. You know, samurai became a Ronin if you didn't have a what you would call it. So a knight errant was somebody who didn't have whatever you call it, a lord to serve. Yeah. So he was competing in a tournament and had caught a hostage, put him on the horse behind him, and is leading him back to his place, to his side, to his fence, and like I said, these battlefields would take up entire countrysides, or and sometimes villages even. So he's riding through a little village, and all of a sudden, all the spectators start laughing, and he's like, "The hell are they all laughing about?" Turns behind him, nobody's on the horse. The guy had grabbed the rooftop. And so there's this knight just hanging there from the rooftop, like, haha, I'm free, and he jumps down and runs away. That's fine. It's like it's not one of the rules. It's like in real warfare, if somebody was taking you away and you were a hostage and you could escape, it's part of the game,
Huh.
So
now, did you try to go back to get him at all, or?
I think in the book I read, I don't know if it really described it. It said that he thought it was hilarious.
He was just like
oh no, it said that he thought it was hilarious. So
that's fun.
So to be honest, I took that. I'm stealing that story and using it in my book. And one of my characters is going to be the guy that jumps on the rooftop and gets away. And in my story, William Marshall makes him part of his little fighting group. So I took that story, made it part of my own. But that's kind of what I wanted to do with the book, was kind of present actual history, but with fictional characters to kind of tell the story.
Huh.
Oh yeah, because I mean that's like most movies. Most movies that are inspired by true events, they usually say, likenesses are similar, but they're not the same. The story has been slightly changed. Da 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 da. So I mean, it's good because it at least allows people to experience just how crafty we were in the past when all we had was our wits and our swordplay or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm ready for survival tip number 5.
Well, these next 2. Let's see. Hold on. Let's see, we've done those. Did that one. I got 2 left now. These last 2 are dietary, so they're also kind of like life hacks in a way. Again, so during the Middle Ages, this was just something you had to do to get by. Obviously. The fall, you would have your harvest. You'd get all your wheat, barley, all kinds of that stuff, and you'd store it as long as you could. And what they called the hunger gap in July was when that was starting to run out, and they started supplementing with anything they could find. They would go off into the hedgerows, and I wrote down here they would take poppies, hemp, and darnel, which are all 3 of those are not not good for you. And obviously hemp, kind of marijuana possibly. And so they would make bread with that. They would, use a little bit of wheat and a little bit of that and mix it all together. You would also have the problem that sometimes that barley or rye that you'd be using had ergot which creates lysergic acid, which is found in LSD.
Oh, wow. So that was some really good bread. That's what you're telling me.
So, during the month of July, they actually ate something they called crazy bread. And, yeah, you could sometimes,
That's awesome.
Take note, Little Caesars. That's real crazy bread.
the lowest form, you'd eat it, you'd have a stomach ache or something, but worst, you'd eat it and the whole town would get would start dancing, having a bad acid trip, and people from the other village are walking shit, we're gonna stay away from that.
And that's how
They're on the
Catholicism was
crazy
born. No.
Exactly.
This is the bread of Christ, man. Shit'll get you.
You're right.
There's a lot of stories.
Eat of my body. Drink of my blood.
Yeah, no. Jesus really likes when we eat this bread, guys.
Sorry.
Yahtzee.
Sorry, Ben. I know that was loud. Oh, man. I got excited about the crazy bread. I've been eating my own crazy bread. Well,
So yeah, you can imagine the I just imagine, the those paintings by Hieronymus Bosch and stuff like that, what I'm talking about, where there's naked people and people are shoving roses up each other's asses and stuff. That had to be painted in July. It had to be July. It had to be July. They're all eating that bread and they're just
That was our crazy bread month.
why won't this cow give me milk? I don't know what's going on here.
It's like the Purge, but it's a month long, just drug tripping
Based off food.
month of debauchery.
Moo cow, don't bother me. All right.
Could you imagine if we had a month dedicated every year to just taking a bunch of drugs
Eating hallucinogenic bread, yes.
and,
That'd be great.
and
Dancing in the
hallucinogens?
town. So what you're saying is Thanksgiving, Christmas time when we just shove it all in our face.
no, we need to have it after Thanksgiving, after New Year's, early that time,
So
where
New Year's-
nothing's
That's
really
New Year's
going
Day.
on.
Start your year.
Yeah, it starts
Start
New
your year
Year's
off the
and it
right
goes
way.
all the way to March. You just
Oh, Jesus Christ.
yeah,
And then we all die.
3 months of just
Whoever
straight
survives,
crazy.
they get to live.
Yeah.
Or maybe this is still going on today. I mean, if you think about it, July 4th weekend,
Oh,
people go a little nuts. They're just America, and maybe they're just
fireworks.
filled with druggy bread.
I like
They
how
get those fireworks because they want to trip.
I like how his America sounded like
oh!
Ben sounded like he was about to start a Kamehameha. He's like, America! He's charging the Super Saiyan. America!
This is
Sorry.
this isn't even my final form. And then he turns his hat around like Ash Ketchum. America!
Sorry. I'm way off.
Rodney's on the bread right now, guys.
Crazy bread.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
You guys like that crazy bread?
So Travis, are there any recipes for crazy bread?
Yeah, I know. So
And not that I know of. I think it's just basically wait until summertime, wait until you run out of food, go out in your front yard, just grab what you find and put it in a pot and make it, I think is what
that does
crazy
not
bread
sound
is.
delicious at all.
No,
Yeah, it does.
no, but
Yeah,
you
it does.
survive.
I'm just going to do that.
You survive.
That sounds to me like it's going to be mostly grass and animal poop.
Yep.
Yeah.
'Cause I feel
I
like
guess
that's
it depends on where you live, I
outside.
guess. I guess it depends on where you live.
Well, I
Yeah,
don't
if you live next to an
poppy
opium
or a
field,
hemp
yeah, it's
field,
like,
or I don't live near any magic mushrooms. I don't have fun vegetation.
I guess they had more fun vegetation in Europe in the Middle Ages. I guess because
A lot of shit.
the lack of
A lot of
pollution. Yeah, lack of pollution.
Well, and
Possibly.
if you think about their sewage system ideas back then, they had to put the poo somewhere. Where do mushrooms grow? Best in the shit.
Oh,
You gotta fertilize your fields.
or the cesspit.
You gotta fertilize your fields. Yeah.
1000. The book 1000 AD talks about the cesspits. It must have smelled amazing. In the Middle Ages. Oh, Imagine.
just walking
mean,
walking on dirt, wet roads all the time.
Wife
You're
comes-
just smelling shit.
your wife
Was that
comes
mud or
home.
was that shit?
You're walking down the street. You're like, Greg, did you have veal last night? Greg, it smells like you had veal last night.
It's like
I think my
your
wife.
wife's walking home from
My wife has
milking the
diarrhea.
cow. It's an improvement. That's how the Middle Ages was. That's it's like your wife comes home after milking the cow, trips and falls in some dung, and you're like, "Is that a new scent, honey?" It's like back then. It's like body odor was. It's like that was just normal. You got used to it.
Yes,
You used the.
yes,
you wore
hon,
the.
it is bovine feces.
Ooh.
Is le crêpe.
Perfume was for rich people to cover
Yeah.
up their stink. Poor people didn't have that. They just had their stink.
Yep.
This
You
must stink,
tripped
and
and
I'm gonna eat it.
If you tripped and fell and poop, well, you're the guy who smells like poop now.
Oh, when you're on
That's what it
crazy
was.
bread, guys, shit happens. Shit happens a lot.
Oh,
Sometimes
man.
you forget you're wearing pants, and you're like, "Oh, there's shit falling out of my pants."
Hey,
I
it
didn't do
stinks.
this.
Somebody get a
Who
rose, shove it
shit
up
my
my
pants?
That's
I'm a human
It all
face.
makes-
It hurts.
Makes sense now, guys.
in the Middle Ages.
That's
if
why
you
they
had,
say your shit smells like roses.
back in the Middle Ages, if you had shit falling out of your pants, that just meant you drank water. That's
Oh
all.
man! Wow.
Yeah, pretty much.
God, I don't know where to go from that.
You,
I really
you
don't
said you
know
had
where to
one
go
more
from
tip,
that.
didn't you, Travis?
Oh, one more tip. When your doctor says go easy on the Lampreys, go easy on the Lampreys. I gotta look up which king that was now. You know what a lamprey
No
is,
clue.
right? It's
No.
it's like a snaky looking thing that lives in creeks and is like the creek version of an eel.
Okay.
And that was like a delicacy back in the day. Kings, they loved it because it was so fattening. It was just all fat. It was like eating butter. And I gotta look up really quick here. I gotta check and see which. Oops, that's the wrong keyboard. Hold on. Whoa, that is the right keyboard.
Jesus, somebody help him!
King
So,
that died
now,
of a
Give this
lamprey.
man some crazy
Ah,
bread.
there we go.
Since you're talking about food, what is the
Uh,
most amazing dish that you've heard of, if you tasted any, from the medieval ages that was just like, ooh, that does sound like it would be yummy?
Well,
I'll-
let's hang on to that
Yeah,
until
I'll-
he researches his
yes,
eel.
sorry.
I've got your answer for that actually, but here, this is funny. So back to King Henry I, whose kid died in the White Ship disaster. He died of a surfeit of lampreys, against his doctor's advice. Which, thinking 1135, even a physician back then was like, dude, lower your cholesterol. Watch it. And he was just like, nah.
You're too fat.
I got this figured out. And he died of food poisoning or other things. But
Well,
I don't know. It's just that I thought that was kind of, in a way, hilarious to me that one of the most powerful people in the world at the time could just be taken down because he wasn't listening to his doctor's
What
advice.
do you mean, like today?
Yeah. I mean, it's like it wasn't even that. It wasn't even that they were dumb. I mean, it's like they were telling him stop eating this crap, and it's like it wasn't like that he ate one or two or three. It's just that he would just pound these things down, and guess it wasn't too good for you. But as far as good food, something I saw, they used to make. I'm trying to think of what kind of a fruit it was. It's a fruit that's got like a very large nut on the inside. It's not a plum, a fig. That's it. It was a fig.
oh yes.
They would take a fig, they would take the nut out of a fig, and they'd replace it with a roasted almond, and then they would cover all that in honey and
Oh
bake
man,
it.
that sounds good.
That sounds like a good
heard of
like
that.
dessert to me,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've had
that sounds
I've
really
had a
good.
braised fig before, which we had what was it, bacon wrapped figs at our friend Danny's wedding.
Oh,
Remember, Ben?
I don't remember the food, but I remember going and driving like 6 hours to get there.
I was with you, Ben.
I know you. Yes, and you can
sat
remember
there
those things.
And you commented you liked the fig, and then
I probably did.
Remember Ben wanted to. Sorry, way off topic.
Sorry, I'm really burping.
Ben wanted to sing karaoke, but everyone kept jumping up in the karaoke line, and Ben was like, "It's fine."
Oh yeah.
See, I want you to remember the hurt.
Do you remember the pain?
Somebody's been wanting attention. There she is. Hi. Okay, now jump away.
Remember the pain.
Yeah, my
She was
cat's
wanting
like,
attention.
Anyway, I'm sorry. Give us another. Do you wait? You're out of survival.
He
tips.
said that was it. That was all of them.
Oh, okay. Well, you know
That's
what?
all the tips I have, but we can talk more food if you want.
Well, tell us
There
about
is,
your book, though, Travis. Tell us more about your book, because you've been kind of breaching that topic.
I've been
so
kind of coy about that,
that's why.
haven't I?
Yeah.
Well,
a little sly.
have you ever? I guess I'll start off by saying, have you ever heard of the author Ken Follett?
Personally, no.
Negatory.
No.
Oh, dang. Okay. So he's one of my favorite authors, and his kind of style was that he would take like a really well-known historical event, like he would do World War II or something like that, something that a time period, and he would take completely fictionalized characters, but they would be like right next to the important people. Like he might have an advisor to FDR or something like that. And that's how he would tell historical events. And so I've read a lot of his books, and that kind of gave me the, I guess you could say the inspiration for how I was going to tell the story. But actually, a friend from high school is the one who gave me the idea for it. He said, he was like, I was asking him for ideas for short films, and all he said was, imagine Apocalypse Now, but Crusaders. Like, guys heading to the crusade. The movie's not about them getting to this crusade, or about them at the crusade, but it's all about them heading there and how, Apocalypse Now is a bunch of trigger-happy soldiers. This would be a bunch of, crazed up religious guys who are ready to pull the sword. And, it's like obviously
Stab
different
happy.
than trigger-happy. Stab-happy.
Yeah.
So stab-happy guys heading off
Perfect.
to war. And then actually it fleshed out from there that I was telling that idea to somebody you guys know, Dustin. I was telling him the idea about it, and he goes, well, the best way to flesh out your characters, I mean, I kind of knew this already, but him saying it kind of gave me the push to do it. He said, you flesh out your characters by writing a bio about them. And I started writing the bio, and I was like, all right, I got a novel now. Because I don't want to just keep it down to this small crusade story. I want to write a whole book about this whole background that I just suddenly came up with for these guys, where I've literally fit them into historical events. And the scarier part is that I arbitrarily chose some places for them to be from, and I would get to a point in my story where I'm like, I need a certain thing to be happening at this point in this time to give them a reason to completely up and leave their home and go to a different place. And then I'd go and research, and it's like, oh, the city was destroyed by an army at that exact moment. And I'm like, I'm kind of like, I don't get superstitious, but I'm almost like, oh shit, am I like, are these people real? Did I know something?
That's how you know you're onto a good story, though, and a good writing is when you start to write these characters, and you just you feel like you're just recording something. You're not even creating anymore. You're just like, yeah, that happened. Oh yeah, it's right there. That's where it happened.
Yeah.
Especially those oh shit moments where you're doing that research and you're like, oh shit, okay,
Right.
all right,
Yeah.
I get it.
Oh man.
What's been your primary form of research for your book? Did that 1000 AD book help a lot?
Oh yeah. I'll probably, if I ever finish this thing, which will take, I've given myself 10 years at least to write the book. Yeah.
Trust me,
the research is taking a long
better
time.
schedule than some.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'd have to write a bibliography at the end of all the books that I've used, because I've got shelves behind me. I've got a whole shelf at work of books that, as I've described, it looks like Bart Simpson's head if you look at the top of the book, because I use little tiny yellow strips to mark where. And so I've got like it looks like a box of fries or something, just with all these things sticking up, and that's all my little notes of like what to go back to. There was a really cool guy, a duke in France of Champagne. That was the region he was duke of, and I love reading about this guy because he was such a down to earth noble at the time. I mean, they called him Henry the Liberal because. At the time, anybody who was noble or whatever, it's like, no, you keep your money. You're the king. You keep your money, you buy stuff, you have a good time. His way of looking at it was, why would I charge the people that work for me, why would I charge them to have a place to live? I'll buy the place that they live in. They stay there for free. That'll incentivize them to work harder for me. I'll reap the benefits in the long run when my economy does well. And at the time, there was like, what the hell is an economy? Nobody thought about that. And he was already thinking about, all right, money goes from this guy to 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 this guy, comes back to me. And I'm just going to keep it going in this circle. And his city of Troyes, which was in the middle of Champagne, became like this incredibly rich city at the time and had a market. And that's kind of where and that also, you've heard of the Knights Templar. They formed in Troyes. That was where they started because of all that money. Huh. So my characters...
It's the Illuminati.
Again, my characters join the Templar at the end. I have 4 noble characters who join as knights in the Templar, and then I've got 8 peasants or lower income that join as what they called sergeant brothers. They weren't knights. They would sign on for a 2-year contract, go fight in the crusades, go home, get whatever money they had, and just go on. They didn't have to take the vow of celibacy or anything else like that, like the nobles had to. So it's not arbitrary. It's not arbitrary that my story has 12 characters and 1 extra guy as the chaplain. It's kind of a I didn't do that. I didn't and did do that on purpose because I thought to myself, okay, every knight had 2 sergeant brothers. You do the math. If I want to keep myself from writing too many characters, but still having 4 nobles, that came to 12. And I'm like, oh shit, well there's my 12 apostles kind of thing and 1 chaplain. I'm like, oh crap, I've got too much symbolism in my book,
It's perfect, man. People are going to think it's the Da Vinci Code. They're going to be like, wait,
oh god,
what the hell? What's going on?
Except for the fact that
making
I'm not putting any conspiracy theories in it. There's none of the conspiracy theories
Travis.
about the Templar.
Damn it!
None
Here's
of that
the thing,
stuff.
though. You don't have to write it for it to exist because you're gonna write it. Somebody else is gonna read it, and they're gonna be like, "Oh, I see what happens. So this connects with this, and this is why this." Yeah, no. It doesn't matter what you do. If they read it, they're gonna come up with some conspiracy theories.
Yep.
Oh yeah. That's why I very specifically like to write things ambiguous, and that's why I think some of our films that we've made with Dustin, I think some people like them, some people don't, And I've seen some of the YouTube comments, and I'm like, whoa.
I've always enjoyed them. But that's
what's that?
Most dangerous game. Screw you guys. You guys don't know shit.
Yeah, some of those comments.
Shit.
Yeah, but that was the point. He and I both didn't want to tell a story where it just tells you what happens at the end or follows the book exactly. I like to change things, make it, and so they always talk about, and I forget the word for it, but the fact that art, once you make a piece of art, it becomes the property of other people. It's not really yours anymore. And that's the way I kind of look at this book, is I'm like, I'm not going to write something that I say, this is the meaning of my book and it's only this. I'm going to be like, this is what my book means to me. And you read it, and if it makes you religious, good for you. If it, because my way of, I'm writing about religious characters in a religious setting that go to the Crusades, but it's not a religious book because what I wanted to write was, I was raised Catholic. I have a very strict Catholic grandmother. My parents were not very strict about it. So what I ended up is I got confirmed Catholic and then literally confirmed Catholic and then stopped being Catholic. The moment I was confirmed Catholic was almost what happened to me. And so the way I looked at it was, I'm like, it's almost like somebody built a cathedral in me and then burned it down, but I've still got the scaffolding and everything. So what do I do with that?
How dare you bring up Notre Dame right now? How dare you bring up Notre Dame right now?
So I guess in a way I look at it that it's like I've got this framework, but what do I do with that? And so it's like I started making up, what do I believe? What do I take from this Catholic upbringing? What do I keep? What do I get rid of? And that's kind of what I'm doing with my stories. I'm like, these characters have all been raised religious, and now they're kind of like going out into the real world and kind of, some of their convictions are being challenged, and somebody in the story that's not religious at all is going to just be like, you know what? I don't believe in anything. And, it's the entire story is what makes him decide that it's kind of like, even though I don't believe in anything, maybe believing that this is true is the best thing that I can do to at least leave this world happy,
Yeah, I mean, you're kind of leaving a message in, your writings. You're showing people through your own kind of, like you said, personal experiences on how this is kind of changed you, like your whole religious upbringing changed you as you grew and matured. You were like, oh man, you see the real world and you're like, whew, this is a lot different than what people were telling me it was, kind of thing. And it's nice that you bring that kind of story to the forefront for people, because there's some people out there who kind of have experiences like that where they've gone through trials and tribulations, like soldiers. They go through their own personal journey, story, if you will. They go overseas, perform a tour. It's very, Rodney and I definitely have a kind of sense of that one, where we understand what it's like, to kind of leave what you've known, and then you go to another place where you've been told this is what this is, and you're like, well, but I'm here, and that's not really what this is.
That's
yeah. And I mean,
I was gonna say that's just a fun take to try to show a view of something. I mean, it's kind of said it, but show a view of something from the perspective of, this is how people envision this, but this is how this really is. And I think that comparing it to a deployment is perfect, because going overseas, going to those places and meeting the locals and talking to certain people, you're just like, wow, why do we see this way?
Well, if you think about it too, Rodney, that would be like us straight getting, as soldiers, it would be like people being like, okay, well, you're being deployed here, but you're going to have to go there on your own and get ready, because you're going to have to kill somebody. You're going over there to kill somebody. This is you go over there for a few years now. It's not just a year, 9 months, couple. It's you're going over there for a certain amount of time, and then you can come on home. And you're fine. Do whatever. Save your money, spend it.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I've seen shit. Kind of.
You ain't lying.
Yeah.
Well,
No. Yeah.
I mean, it's like what you're saying about similar to a deployment. I mean, I think as far as the way my story is, and I mean the fact that it takes place in 1160s is when it starts. I think this is my own book, and I can't even remember. I have a whole Google document on it. It takes place over 16 years, I think, about 15, 20 years maybe. Because I've got characters that start out about 5 and end, 16 to 20 years old or something about that. I can't remember quite how long I have it going on. But what you're saying about, like a deployment, almost every single character in my story is, and you think of Middle Ages in that time, everybody grew up in their village. You literally never left that village most of the time. So even 20 miles away would be like being deployed to Iraq. It's like, oh my God, what is this place? They're speaking a completely different dialect than me. I don't even know, and so that was what fascinated me too about writing about the Middle Ages is if you've got people that, because of war, get displaced and moved around, because right before the crusade that this takes place, France, was like war-torn. You had King Henry II, his sons were revolting against him. He's having a war against France. So it's just like all these things going on. So that's where a lot of my characters kind of got fed up with stuff and left and became basically, it's illegal to leave your village at the time. So they're not legally traveling, so they basically have to leave and become outlaws and head to wherever they're going. And obviously, halfway in my book is when they all meet in Troyes, not by design, but they just all happen to be there down on their luck. And this is like, okay, this is our only option, you know? Like, we don't have a job, we don't have anything. Here's these nobles that they really want to form this group of guys to go off to help in the Middle East. Hey, I can make a few bucks, and, you know, this will get us out of France for a while. I won't have to kill my own countrymen. I can go off and do this. And, you know, at the time, they also thought that the Knights Templar, they literally thought that all they were was, we're going to protect pilgrims. That's what we do. We just go there and we just protect pilgrims who are going to see the Holy Land. So that's what they thought they were headed to go do. You know?
That sounds familiar, too. I've heard that story from many a troops before. Hey, we just thought we were going over to help, you know?
Oh. Huh. Sorry. It is funny
Did
how,
you have a
like...
stroke, Travis?
No, but...
Travis, are you there?
No, but it's funny how, like... I mean, it's kind of like, it should be obvious that I didn't think that's true. That it's like, you look at how governments convinced people to go fight in the 1100s, and it's the same now. I mean, it's, you know, you think you're going to go, you think you're going to go do something good, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So, that's just, yeah, and that's why, the other thing that's fascinating to me, too, is that the time period I'm writing, 1160s, is just late enough for veterans of the First Crusade, if I'm right. It was the First Crusade was in, no, it wasn't the First Crusade, but there was a crusade in the 1140s that there could be veterans from, and that was important to me. That, you know, here's these, you know, that the characters in my book are growing up around people who are about 20 years, 30 years older than them, who had already been on crusade, and they're kind of like, it's not a good idea. It doesn't turn out the way you think it does, you know. And that's what my chaplain is as well. There's an interesting story. I didn't include it as a survival tip, but it could be a survival tip. That there is a true story about the King of France. If I'm right, it was Louis VII. Was on crusade, and as he was traveling through Turkey, was attacked by, you know, not even his enemy, just people who are like, there's an army passing through, let's raid them, you know, and got attacked. And the way he survived was that he climbed up onto a rock. And the only people that survived were the ones who were able to climb up onto these boulders to get away from the people who were attacking them. So, I'm including that in my story. I want my chaplain to have been a knight or a squire that survived that, came back to France, gave up the life of being a noble and joins monastery. And, you know, and so I've got him as almost like the conscience for all these guys, you know, being like
Jiminy Cricket.
Right. He's lived through this. He's seen the Middle East. He knows what it's like over there and tries to, like, rein them in, you know, as well he can.
Well, that's honestly, I look forward to it whenever you actually have that book out, because it's a very compelling story. It gives a lot of different views, and it lets people kind of see the evolution, especially during that time period too, when things were completely different for people. So, I mean, honestly, I'm looking forward to it. What now? Do you have a title for this book yet?
No,
because we want to plug it. Come on, come on, Tress. Come on.
I've been trying forever. I'm thinking of going with something in Latin. I have no idea. It's very hard.
The Marquis of Life. You know, I don't.
Yeah,
but I mean, honestly,
I'm gonna get big time. People are gonna call me out for being woke or whatever in my book, which is gonna be great. You know, I'll love it when people call me out and trying to be like, oh, you're trying to be all liberal and shit. I'm like, yeah, I don't give a shit, because I got. Okay, this is Middle Ages. I got 2 transgender characters. All right, if you can believe that, because, and I set out with this in mind. And this is another one of those things that I was like, I wanted to have transgender characters. I don't know how I can make that work in the Middle Ages. And as I'm reading, totally works. Totally fits. So I wanted these characters to be from southern France. Southern France had Catalan people. These are the people that followed Eastern Orthodox beliefs. They believed in Gnosticism, which was not agnosticism, but Gnosticism. They believed in two gods, that there was the good God and the bad God. Good God created heaven. Bad God created earth. Earth was hell.
Jesus.
So why on earth, in hell, whatever, why on earth would we let our bodies define us? So they didn't believe in gender. They didn't believe that there was a man or a woman. They believed that the soul was genderless. So a man could be a priest, a woman could be a priest, man could hold property, woman could hold property, whatever. So these two female characters of mine have to leave their village. And when they get to a Catalan village, the Catalan village is like, we want them to have the same, opportunities as other people. Let's just raise them as boys. Nobody will ever know. And so, in my story, I've got two characters that are genetically female, but will identify as male. So I want to talk with a lot of transgender people about their life experiences to help fill in those characters in my story too.
All right, we're back from break.
You're welcome.
That was interesting. It's kind of funny when you think about it, how many similar problems we all had. Say all, but humans had back in the day versus now. I mean, they're very similar. I want to say it's almost common sense. All the tips that Travis gave us today, it's almost common sense, but at the same time, I want to go have the in my road, see if I can do something with that. I mean, what do you guys think?
Basically, if I was a time traveler, I would want to make sure that I have Travis with me on the trip, because I really need somebody that understands not only the life in Middle Ages, but how am I not gonna die? Because it seems like everything in the Middle Ages was just out to kill you. If you got drunk, you died. If you ate too much of something, you died. It wasn't go to the doctor and get better. It was everything ends in death, basically, for the Middle Ages. Basically, everything ends in death. So I would try to avoid that for as long as possible.
Yeah, I definitely understand that.
I really don't think I would want to go back in time. And I know he said that, they had people of color, but honestly, doesn't work out for me. I've always kind of really not liked the idea of time travel because I think I just screw stuff up. As far as what he was talking about, I do really find it interesting. I really would like for him to put this book out already because the story was very interesting to me. So yeah, I really think there was a lot to be said there, but I don't really have a lot to add. So it was good. It's good talk. I just kind of listened a lot.
I know how that is. I mean, literally, concept to do when you get kind of caught into people's stories. And I mean, he was telling us a great story. It literally was it's literally a story about growth. Slowly kind of, maybe not growing away from church, but at the same time, growing into himself. Church gained the foundations. He saw the real world and changed. It's literally a growth story. So, but hey, guys, feel free to come and check us out. Anchor.fm. You know what? That's going to be it. That's going to be my outro right there. I want everyone to know that I can't remember amusingminds.com or musingmindspodcast.com where they can find us. That's where they can come see us or listen to us, because there's links going to all the stuff we have, guys. I mean, we're everywhere. We're getting everywhere. So buckle up the ride, and we'll see you in the next one.